Hey, church family, we're here to continue with our Bible studies or devotionals through the Psalms. And today we're looking at Psalm chapter 4. So let's get started with that. So, Psalm chapter 4, beginning in verse 1. It says, "Answer me when I call, God, who vindicates me. You freed me from my affliction. Be gracious to me and hear my prayer. How long, exalted ones, will my honor be insulted? How long will you love what is worthless and pursue a lie? Selah. Know that the Lord has set apart the faithful for himself. The Lord will hear when I call to him. Be angry and do not sin. On your bed, reflect in your heart and be still. Selah. Offer sacrifices in righteousness and trust in the Lord. Many are asking, who can show us anything good? Let the light of your face shine on us, Lord. You have put more joy in my heart than they have when their grain and new wine abound. I will both lie down and sleep in peace. For you alone, Lord, make me live in safety." Now we're going to take basically three different verses here, themes, and talk about those today. So let's talk about verse 3 for a second. Let's read that again. "Know that the Lord has set apart the faithful for him. The Lord will hear when I call to him." God has set aside believers for himself. Again, that reminds us that we are called to live for God's glory. We are called to do God's will, not our own. So we are called to a new life. We are given new values. We have God we should have God exalting desires now. We should have a new moral code. We adopt a new way of living because we belong to God. See, who you belong to impacts what you do or how you think. If you belong to the world, you think like the world. You live like the world. You celebrate like the world. You just live like the world. But see, when we belong to God, we live for him. We're to think like him. We're to act like him. And where do we go for that? We go to Jesus. That's who we have to go to. So when it says God has set aside believers for himself, that is fully realized and experienced in Jesus and in Jesus alone. So you want to know how you can live for God's glory? You look to Jesus. Then in verse 5, he says, "Offer sacrifices in righteousness and trust in the Lord." See, in the face of hardship, where do you turn? When you lack wisdom, where do you turn? Here we are told to trust in the Lord because, man, he is trustworthy. He is consistent. He is faithful. God is able. He's the one we turn to. We don't turn to our own gifts, our own abilities, our own thoughts, our own ways of doing things. We don't turn to the world. We turn to God himself. And you can't know God himself without the scriptures. So you turn to God's word so that you can know God. You turn to him for wisdom. Don't seek wisdom from the world. Seek wisdom from God. Trust in God alone. And then verse 7 says, "You have put more joy in my heart than they have when their grain and new wine abound." There is more joy in God than all the wealth the world has to offer. Do you want true joy? Then stop trying to use the things of the world to satisfy you. God is the source of our joy, not the material things of this world. He's saying here, look, I have more joy in God than they do in all the riches of the world. Do you believe that? Do you believe that God alone is enough to give you all the joy that you need? See, again, remember, we have been set aside for God. We are his people. We're to trust in the Lord. He is our source of joy, not the world. See, there's this battle that goes on, and Jesus prayed that in John 17, that for us, as we face this battle, we're going to be battled, we're going to be pulled into the world. The world is trying to pull us into them all the time. The world is trying to get us to think like them, to act like them, to value what they value. But see, the world is calling that because of the prince of the power of the air. The prince of this world, Satan, that's the temptation. The temptation is to become like the world, to blend in. That was the temptation all through the book of Judges, is for the people to blend into the culture around them. Don't blend into the world. Realize that you are set aside for God, that you are to trust him alone, and that he alone provides you the joy that you need in life. Don't be tricked into thinking that anything this world has to offer can bring you goodness can bring you joy, can complete you. This world has nothing but rubbish to offer us. This world only has the temporary, but God has the eternal. Turn to God, trust Him. Then you can have true joy. I hope you have a great afternoon and look forward to talking with you again next week.